Okay, the last section for chapter 8 is dealing with inverse trig functions. So we're not graphing them anymore. We're just we're looking at inverses and how to work backwards. So if the function is sine, the inverse is negative sine to the negative 1, or arc sine is how you might see it written. On the calculator, in this row, you have sine. And if you want inverse of sine, you just hit second sine, and it gives you that negative 1. What inverse functions do is they undo each other. So if sine of y is x, then the inverse sine of x is y. They just go back and forth. It's as simple as that. So if we look at part 1 here, given sine of 5 pi over 12 is approximately, that's what this little squiggle means, 0.96593. Write a relation involving inverse sine. So we just write inverse, and then we switch these numbers. So 0.96593 equals 5 pi over 12. If we're doing this one here, we write inverse cosine, switch those numbers. So 0.8776 equals 0.5. For evaluating things, you have a couple choices. One, you can just type it in the calculator, which I'll show you in a little bit. But if they're the special angles, you can actually use that table. So this table is going to be in the note sheet. We filled it out the other day. So if you have your chapter 7 notes, that's there. But we're going to use this to fill it out, and I'll give you this on the thing. So the first question was sine inverse of negative 1. So it's saying, when does sine equal 1/2? So if I go to this, sine is 1/2 at 30 degrees. And sine is positive. So it's at 30 degrees, it's positive. So this is just going to be 30 degrees or pi over 6. Now we want to know when the inverse of sine is negative root 2 over 2. That table has all positive values. So what we're going to do is we're going to set a range for each one. Sine, we're going to do negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. If it doesn't fall in that range, we're going to figure out, we'll figure out which angle does. For cosine, we're going to do 0 to pi. And for tangent, we're going to do negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. The reason we choose those is it gives a quadrant on our unit circle where they're both positive. So sine goes from here to here. Sine is positive here and negative here. Cosine goes from 0 to pi, and cosine's positive here and negative here. Tangent's the same as sine. So that's how we're going to figure out which thing we're doing. All right. So if we're looking at sine negative 2 over 2, so sine equals root 2 over 2 at 45 degrees. So on this thing, at 45 degrees, it's positive. So here it would be negative. So 7 pi over 4. Where am I? 7 pi over 4. You also could say, well, since positive 45 or positive pi over 4 was positive, you can write negative pi over 4 as negative. I would take either of those answers. So now let's do cosine. We want root 3 over 2. So cosine is root 3 over 2 at 30 degrees. And cosine's positive here. So it's going to be negative at 5 pi over 6. So we would write 5 pi over 6. Now we want when tangent is 1. So tangent is 1 at 45 degrees. So 45 degrees or pi over 4. All right, let's keep going. When is sine negative 1? So sine is 1 at 90 degrees. So it would be negative 1 at negative 90, or negative pi over 2. Tan is negative 1 at 45, so it would be negative 45, or negative pi over 4. Cosine is 1 when it's 0, so it would be negative 1 at the other end of that, which is pi. And then cosine is 1/2 when we're at 60 degrees, or pi over 3. So those special angles, if you see the root 2s and the root 3s and the 1/2s, you can use the table. What if it doesn't fall on the table? Okay, well, we'll use the calculator. So here we're going to do sine inverse 0.97. If you're in radians, you're going to get 1.35. If you're in degrees, you're going to get 75.93. This is where the units matter. If it says degrees, you need to have it in degrees. If it doesn't say, as long as you label it, you're fine. So same thing. Cosine in degrees is going to be 113.58. And in radians is going to be 1.98. All right. The other way we can do this is to solve a triangle. So we did SOHCAHTOA in chapter 7. That's our sine, cosine, tangent for triangles. And then I'm going to change some numbers here because I copied the wrong triangle. To undo that, here's the angle we want. So we say, hey, this side is adjacent. This side is hypotenuse. So we would use cosine. So we do inverse cosine of that fraction, adjacent over hypotenuse. So 9/12. With triangles, we want degrees. So it would be 41.4 degrees. If we did this one, here's our angle. That's the opposite, and that's the hypotenuse, which tells us sine. So sine inverse is 6/10. Put that in the calculator. You get 38.9 degrees. All right. So last thing for this section. So notice here we have an inverse and the same. So inverse and regular, sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different. What we're going to do is we're going to use those same ranges as before, like those same domains. So sine was negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. Cosine was 0 to pi. And tan was negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. If it's in the range and they're the same, it's just going to cancel out. So pi over 3 fits in between that. So the sine, those are going to cancel and we get pi over 3. 2 pi over 3 fits in cosine's range. So those are going to cancel and we're going to get 2 pi over 3. 2 pi over 3 is not in sine's range. So we have to figure out which one is. So we can look at our table. We can say, all right, 2 pi over 3 is here. So it's one of these 4. So sine is positive there. And because it was positive in here, then we're going to say, oh, that must equal pi over 3. (13 pi over 6). That's more than a whole circle. So I'm going to take 13 pi over 6 and I'm going to subtract 2 pi. Now, to get 2 pi over 6, I need to multiply by 6 over 6. So I get 12 pi over 6. So I'm going to change that. 13 minus 12 is 1. Cosine of pi over 6 is root 3 over 2. And then, so now we're saying inverse sine of root 3 over 2. So we go to that table and we say sine is root 3 over 2 at pi over 3. So pi over 3. You also can just type it in your calculator, okay? If it doesn't say exact, just type it. And I think most of them take either. So you would hit sine, then you hit second cosine, 4 divided by 5. You get 0.6, which is 4/5. It ends up working. But like down here, just make sure, because we have these pi's that were in radians, and then type it. So cosine, inverse, cosine, negative pi over 3, 1.05. Ends up being pi over 3, but it'll take this. Inverse tan, pi divided by 8, 0.36. Ends up being pi over 8, but the computer will take both. Inverse tan, 11 pi divided by 9, 0.92. If you use the table, you're going to get that. Ends up being 3 pi over 4. Did I type it right? I guess, I think I typed it wrong in here. Anyway, but so it's the same idea. You can do it either way. You can just use the calculator and type exactly what you're given. Or you can use the table. Does not matter to me in the slightest. It's whatever is easier for you when you do it. All right. So that is 8.3. Good luck.